Hello everyone and welcome to Haven Outside. Today I am here in Nephi, Utah. It is November and things are starting to get a little bit cold, but the work doesn't stop. And so today I wanted to be explaining the weed barrier process and why weed barrier is important and worth the expense. Let's dive right in. We're right off the road here, so if it's pretty loud from these trucks, I apologize. What we have here is the weed barrier. So this is the best weed barrier available, and that's all we use. And how you know it's the best is if you look here, it's got that felt on the back, and it's really thick and durable. Like, it'll be really hard to rip this, and it's supposed to last 20 years, so that's worth it. If you can see how much we've put down, how much more we're doing, it's definitely worth the expense, because could you imagine if this got out of control with all the weeds? Now I wanted to explain the installation of it. So we overlap it at least a foot. So over here is a corner piece going from a diagonal one, so it's overlapped quite a bit. And this one over here is another corner, so it's overlapped quite a bit, but down here it's at least a foot. Then every single row is the same thing. So you can see that it's one roll going all the way down, and it's a foot at least. Notice here you see the row of trees, and the paper is going around the trees. There's a little slit left, so potentially this could grow weeds right here because it's got that cut in it and the dirt is exposed. However, you don't want to leave it tight because it will choke the tree out as it decides to grow bigger and bigger. It'll just push this out as it needs. Now, we decided to plant the trees before we put this in. Usually in residential, you put it in after you put the plants in, after you put the weed barrier down, so that it's easier to know where the plants will be after you put this down, because you don't want to be putting these rolls over plants. So weed paper has more benefits than imaginable, in my opinion. There's a lot of crappy weed barriers that they sell at just like your local Lowe's or Home Depot or hardware store. And those ones are no good. We only use the best because it actually works. That other stuff could maybe last a summer when you're lucky. But this is gonna last 20 years. It's pretty expensive to put down. Right now, I think the going rate is 50 cents a foot, including the labor. So it's not like too bad, but it can add up if you have a big backyard and you want big flower beds. But I think it's worth it. 20 years of not worrying about crazy amount of weeds is definitely worth the cost. So the thing with weed barrier is the majority of the area will never grow weeds for like 20 years at least, with the good stuff, which we put down here. However, you can't make it perfect because you see right here on the edge, that's exposing a little bit of dirt, that potentially a weed could grow right through the crack right there. So it's not perfect, but honestly, it's easier to maintain weeds that are out of a crack and around your edges than the majority. Imagine if this was just completely weeds, it'd be overwhelming. So it's worth the expense. And just keep that in mind as you install it, is it will potentially, weeds could grow here, but you could maybe sterilize the ground just in this area, and it would be a cheap way to keep them away rather than sterilizing this whole area every year to keep the weeds away. It's going to be kept away for 20 years with this good stuff. Okay, so your next important thing is your stapling. So since we're putting rock on top of this, our staples are like 5 feet, 6 feet apart or so. You can see one there and one there. But keep in mind, if you're putting a lighter material on top of your weed barrier, you'll want more staples, because that's going to keep it in place over the long term. Like if you had light bark or something, it would blow away in the wind and maybe expose your wheat barrier, and then the wind could catch it and take it away. But since we're putting rock on top of this, we can space it out a little bit more than that. Now the best type of staples to use are, I say 6 inches, because it's long enough to go deep so that it doesn't fall out easily, rip out of the ground as easy. They have 4-inch, 6-inch, 8-inch, and 12-inch. So keep that in mind. But that's also important because the deeper it is in the ground, the harder it will get out. However, if you get the 12-inch, it's going to be really hard to get down that deep because you'll hit rocks. And so I think the 6-inch size is the best, because it'll go in the ground deep enough and you're not hitting rocks and wasting inches by it getting bent over anyway. So it's another thing we do. Now they have different sizes of weed barrier. This is a 12-foot because we're doing such a big area. I think they have ones that are a little bit bigger than this, but we chose to go with the 12-foot just because it spanned out better when we did the math. But they have different sizes all the way down to 3 feet. So keep that in mind. And that helps. And that's also important. As you're putting this down, you want rocks to be out of the way and you want your ground to be level. So we've already leveled that, and as I go, I'll throw these rocks to the side, and if they're too big, I'll throw them out. So we don't have to worry about that. So there we go. So there you have it. If you have any questions, visit us at havenoutside.com, and go follow our media pages on Facebook and Instagram and on YouTube. And thanks for tuning in. I hope you have an awesome day. We'll see you on the next video.